Edward has become a good boy now, said Elsa, laughing. Yes, Edward has always been good. Just mischievous back then. But now, he's changed a lot. Even though many girls admire him, he doesn't pay them any attention and focuses on his studies, Edward's mother said. After visiting Edward's house, Elsa and her father went home. Edward's mother told him that Elsa and her father had visited. Edward was happy and asked his mother about their conversation. He was eager to see Elsa. Next day at school, while it was raining, it was time for the students to go home. Elsa couldn't go home immediately because the rain was heavy. She noticed that Edward was right behind her. While another student was running, they accidentally bumped into Edward, causing Edward to bump into Elsa. Elsa was pushed out of her shelter and got wet from the rain. Elsa thought that Edward had pushed her. Elsa was furious. Edward, you used to bully me, and you're still doing it now? Elsa yelled. Edward was shocked and puzzled. How did she know him? And why did she mention he used to bully her? Elsa stormed off, angry and soaked. Edward ran after Elsa, trying to apologize. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry, Edward said to Elsa. When we were kids, we used to play together, but then you changed and started bullying me. Is it still the same now? Elsa cried. She walked away, leaving Edward stunned and deep in thought. Who is that girl, really? Edward wondered. Meanwhile, Elsa arrived home, still soaking wet. Why are you all wet? Her father asked. It's nothing, Dad, Elsa replied. Get ready, because we'll be moving back to our old house. Your aunt said it's finally ready, her father told her. Elsa went to her room to get ready, and that evening, they moved back to their old house. Elsa walked around the house, feeling both amazed and happy as she remembered her childhood memories. In the storage room, Elsa found an old picture of her and Edward when they were kids. She felt a mix of joy and annoyance at the sight. She continued exploring until she saw their old mailbox and remembered she had thrown away a box Edward gave her before they left the country. She bravely opened the old mailbox and found the box still there. Elsa hesitated, but decided to open it, thinking the frog inside must be dead by now, after all these years. To her surprise, there was no frog. Instead, she found a small stuffed toy and a piece of paper with a message. Elsa opened the paper and read it. The message: Elsa, this stuffed toy is for you. Take care of it. Hug it when you feel sad. Take care while you're abroad with your dad. And I'm sorry for always bullying you. Don't worry, when you come back, I promise I won't bully you anymore. Promise. The message was from Edward. Elsa cried and felt happy reading the note. Her anger towards Edward disappeared as she realized he might have truly changed. As his mother had said, she forgave Edward, thinking he might not have intended to hurt her. Meanwhile, at Edward's house, he was restless, trying to figure out who the beautiful girl at school was. He thought it might be Elsa, but he remembered Elsa wasn't considered pretty when they were kids. However, Edward couldn't deny to himself that Elsa was special to him, which was why he always tried to get her attention. As Edward slept, he dreamed. In his dream, he was talking to a beautiful woman. The woman said she was not his childhood friend. I am not Elsa, I am not Elsa, she repeated in Edward's dream. The next day, a weekend, Edward went to the park. While sitting and thinking, he saw the beautiful woman there. He wanted to approach her, but was too shy, afraid she might not be Elsa. Nervously, Edward stood up and walked towards the woman. She noticed him and called out, Edward, Edward, over here. Edward was flustered and didn't know what to do. He slowly approached her and asked, Are you calling me? Yes, it's you. Aren't you Edward? The woman replied. How do you know me? Who are you? What's your name? Edward asked. The woman introduced herself as Melissa. Edward suddenly felt sad, and his face showed his disappointment because she wasn't really Elsa. He stood up abruptly, feeling dismayed and embarrassed. The woman laughed and said, I am Elsa. I was just joking. I am not Melissa. Didn't you recognize me at first? I really couldn't recognize you, because you look so different. But he was very happy with what he heard. She is really Elsa, he thought. Overjoyed, Edward hugged Elsa without realizing it, because he missed her so much. Elsa was surprised, but smiled. Edward suddenly felt embarrassed. Sorry, he said to Elsa. Ha ha ha. It's okay, Elsa replied. I missed you, she added. Edward blushed and felt shy, but he smiled and whispered, I missed you a lot too. What did you say, Edward? Elsa asked. Nothing, Edward replied. Their conversation continued, and they didn't notice how comfortable they had become with each other. From then on, they became closer and always went to school and went home together, waiting for each other. Edward always protected Elsa from any possible accidents, and Elsa did the same for Edward. They would go out together on weekends. Their once interrupted friendship was rekindled.